Hey everybody, Razora here. Today I'm going to go ahead and break down every single character for the 9th anniversary and what I think you should be doing for the recommended hit potential system build. So in this case, we're going to be starting off with LRUI Goku, then we'll go into the 6th anniversary characters. We'll go ahead into these guys, to the Broly, CHEELAI, LEMO, and then go into the sub EZAs for this anniversary as well. So first case scenario we have here is LRUI Goku sign, and how I recommend building him is that you will go ahead and build him with 15 dodge and 6 additional. The reason why is because for Goku in this instance, he has a 70% chance to dodge already from 7 turns and then gets a high chance for the 8 turns. Most battles don't tend to last as long around for 7 or 8 turns, so you mostly have his full 70% chance to dodge. Additionally, including with the recent EZAs, you're going to have him with the 7+% reps of Universe 7 category allies. So if you're running these two guys with him, you will tend to have an 84% chance to have dodge in this case. So my recommendation is that dodge will be helpful for him because he doesn't very tank well in the recent fights that we've seen in the JP version. So this defense was 77%, attack 77%, and all these critical buffs in defense are massively important in order to actually get his additional. Get his not additional. Make sure that he doesn't take damage and make sure he gets all the issues done. Now the reason why I also recommend going 6 additional is just because these characters, every single one of these 9th anniversary characters, I think except for the Broly, CHEELAI, LEMO, and then I think PARAGUS and Broly have built-in crit that are pretty significantly high. Like this one gets up to 77. Most of the other characters are getting up to 100% crit on 24 key. So there really is no need to go for crit in their hidden potential system, which is why I would recommend going for additional, because if you get the chance to have that proc, you get another 30% increase to your stats, and that way you might be able to live like a normal attack versus, I guess in this case, like STR Gogeta, even though he's not on global at the current moment. And it's just way more being cautious and being able to play it defensive with defensive. Next, we're gonna move on to True Ultra Instinct Goku. So we already know that base kit Goku is one of the most powerful characters in the game right now, with the fact that he evades enemy attacks in the first entrance, and then upon the rest of the turn, he gets 77% chance to evade enemy attack. And now that we know that this additional chance of evading enemy attacks plus 7% with the same attack is now additive to the original 77%, this changes up fundamentally a lot of the character's design philosophy and how we would go about doing the structure for him. So in this case, as you continually dodge with him, this would make it so that any other dodges you would have from the hidden potential system would actually lose in terms of effectiveness for this character. So like here, if I go ahead and actually show you right now the docs, right now with LRMI Goku, my recommendation is 14 additional and 15% dodge to give him a 50-50% ratio. It's because this mixture of dodge and add will actually be the most effective combination when regards to how much attack and defense you're going to have with this character. As this character dodge, let's say you had a 30% dodge build on his hidden potential system. His starting dodge is 77%. If you failed this, then the added benefit of the hidden potential dodge is only 6.9% on the initial first attack if he hasn't received any attacks before and has not dodged anything. And then as you see, as he progressively gets down, the dodge percent chance that gets added to your hit potential system gets lower and lower and lower every single round to a point where it gets to 0.6%. And this is a very significant loss when you realize you're losing around 2.1% of your dodge potential every single round. So in this case, I would rather go ahead and reduce the amount of reduction that you're getting and go for more of a 15% dodge build, where, as you see here, the reduction is of 3.45%, 2.4, 1.35, so you're only losing around 1.05% of your dodge chance in comparison to this, where you're giving yourself a lot more dodge, but you're losing a lot more benefits as you continue through the fight. So I would recommend that you actually go for additional, because then you can go ahead and give yourself all of this for massively raising attack. You'll get yourself a greatly raised stack, and you'll give yourself another chance to then do the hidden potential system to give yourself, your allies, more additional crit. That way, I know a lot of people, I know specifically like DT and like many other not global players, more like the general community base is very defense focused. But I think one of the things to highly stress about when it comes to playing defense is that you need to have a great offense as well. Like the phrase goes that a great defense is a good offense. So having this UI Goku being able to help support the allies by having the additional and reducing how much you're losing in terms of dodge potential from the hidden potential should be maximized. So I would not recommend or do not acknowledge the idea of giving this character full dodge, because I think that's actually a lot more of a less effective method than actually giving your characters the benefit. Alright, so as I skipped over this guy, got 5 guys here, let's see if we can just go over here and actually get these guys firsthand. So we already know with Phi, Godku, and Phi SSGSS, oh, I forgot to mention as well, like, Goku gives 24 crit already on his, like, when Ki is 24, so there's no point to giving him crit at all. Like, you're pretty much better off, and he also has crit chance a bunch inside his kit anyway, so you don't need to do that. This is the same with the blue boys as well, because the blue boys get a critical hit around 24 Ki. So that can be happening on its skill, and they're active. And these characters, this guy has a chance to fail you a lot because he's very meta. He's very SGR cooler like, very LR Gohan and Goten like, Asia Gamma 1 type, where they are most of the time just being your highest damage dealer and trying to basically not take too much damage in comparison. This is nice, but at max, you're probably going to get around, I would probably say around 21-28% damage reduction per the Rainbow Keysphere that you obtain. So my recommendation has always been that you go for a 6 to 9 dodge build, although for these guys, I'm more lenient to believe that you could go for more of a higher dodge build and a lower additional build. It's more of just how much you want to play when it comes to their chance to actually perform a super attack, because we know that as they super attack, you want to be able to finish the fight quickly, or you may choose to go for a more defensive route where you choose to prioritize a bit more dodge and then have less additional. I say that a lot is because of the fact that there's a chance that you might be able to do the additional on one of your procced additional attacks, but there might be a chance of that hidden potential being a normal instead. And so if you have another attack where you then are using it, you could potentially then use another additional attack to flip the coin again and be like, hey, this time it'll be a super attack. So I guess in this case, like, the higher you build your additional potential system, the more chances you're giving yourself to flip that 50% coin to get that super attack. So I think that's way more helpful for these guys when it comes to their defense, considering that they get a lot of greatly raised attack defense for one turn, and massively raised attack and defense for on their super attacks. I think this will be way more beneficial for the team and being able to help you blitz through events a lot more clearly. Let's go ahead and get rid of these tabs right here. Alright, now that we're done with Phi, Goku, and Vegeta, we can go ahead and talk about LR Vegeta. So LR Vegeta, we all know that he's a really great character. Turn 1, guards all attacks. He gets built-in damage reduction and also builds it up to a 30% for each attack received. And we know that his condition skill for his revive is that it needs to be attacked 5 times. So in this case, having him be filled full dodge or like anything like that might actually be hurt you in the longer run, because you might be losing your chance to actually then get the revival skill and potentially dive way quicker in the turn. So my recommendation is that you go ahead and build him full additional, with being that the max. And then the unfortunate part is right now that he actually suffers from losing the fact that you can only choose between 3 critical hit versus dodge on some of those nodes, which I think that Dokkan should switch it up, because I'd rather have him be able to have some other effects, because at this point he has 4 to 5 different chances to crit just based on his kit alone. So you're going to see him crit every single time. So there's no really point to give him a crit node, and then dodging nodes will only hurt him in the longer run because he already has the plus base 5 dodge for being an int type. So in this case, I would almost recommend that you almost not give him the nodes in the first place if you're not going to choose to change it in the later run. But if you are willing to do so, I think the dodge nodes would be at least giving you some added benefits in those certain nodes versus just giving him crit that you already know that you're guaranteed to have from his 24 Ki and from his super attacks. I would recommend that way more. Alright, moving on now. Let's go on and talk about Phi, Broly, CHEELAI, and LEMO. So we know their passive is that they're more of a nuker lead, a nuking type where they basically do more damage per Keysphere, and then they support their allies based on the fact that if they get an Agile or SGR for attack and defense for tech with tech and int. And they also do way more support, I'm just now noticing, with the Rainbow Keysphere instead. So my problem with them is the fact that they don't have that much they have a lot of need when it comes down to the additional build. I recommend also giving them. Uh, it's weird because they don't have actually any crit in their built-up system, so it makes me believe that there should be at least given at least a 3% or like a 6% chance to crit based on their node build. But I decided to recommend going just for more of a full dodge build and doing a plus an additional leftover. So in this case, that way you do getting this attacks. That way they might be able after additionally with the second one, or in this case after the third, if you get the 24 key, to might be able to live a normal. But mainly this character is meant to dodge and be able to do attacks. I would recommend at least giving him 3 or 6 crit at least, because then you will give him the most chances you can have. So maybe turning one of the additional nodes, since this character gets additional 5 additional for free, I would recommend giving him some sort of 3-6% chance to crit, because then you at least have some chance to be able to do damage to the boss massively and be able to then clear events a little bit more faster. Because this character is essentially the case of you're hoping to make sure they have 7 orbs every single round, and the more rounds you have in terms, or more round rotations that you have or turns, the more likely you are to not have that situation, and the more likely you are to lose because of that scenario. So I would advise all people to at least build a tiny bit of crit, tiny bit additional, maybe like a 10, or like in this case since it would be 5, maybe go for 11, and then just go full dodge build on their orbs and also on every single part of their node, because this character is just mainly meant to just dodge fully when it comes down to it. Maybe if you're someone who gets lucky enough to get all of these attacks, maybe go for a crit, but like honestly just full dodge build on this character is probably the best option for you in this scenario. Alright, so that's for all the LRs at the moment. Let's go ahead and talk about the sub EZAs. So we talk about BARDOCK and GINE and also PARAGUS and BARDOCK. So we'll talk about BARDOCK and GINE for a second. BARDOCK and GINE has a really interesting kit in the fact that their super attack gives them a 2-turn support, which is really good. I actually highly recommend this, but the problem is that this character does not have any dodge capabilities at all in its kit. So I would recommend going for at least a good 50% or higher ratio of dodge. So in this case, go for like 15%, go for 8% maybe. Just give it some level of dodge. That way you can have this character who he might not be able to survive the super, but he has a chance to at least dodge the attack. Well, actually, I would recommend just going full dodge on him anyway, and then giving him a 6% like additional, because at this point the character, if you get the 6% additional, get the second chance to do a super, you would raise your ally stats by 44% for 2 turns, and then stack that with the all allies, you would get 66% attack and 44% decent for 2 turns, which I think is a great buff for this character. So my recommendation was for this character to just go full dodge build with extra additionals, so that way you can go ahead and do so. The character already has built-in crit from if you're facing against a Frieza character, and most of the time you probably are going to face him only with a Frieza character, or if you have a bond of parent and child ally on attacking in the same turn. So these are my recommendations for BARDOCK and GINE, and they also have a very powerful active skill with removing all ally statics effect, because nowadays a lot of bosses have like a stunning effect, seals, rotation locking, so this character is a viable option. So I would recommend going full dodge to make sure you can maximize their survivability, but at the same time giving them additional so that way you can maximize your character's other rotation abilities and your other characters on the rotation. Alright, now for one of the characters I think has probably the worst EZA probably out of all of the bunch inside of this anniversary, and that's mostly because they have 2 categories, man. This character should be on super bosses and movie bosses. Like Broly, CHEELAI, LEMO being on movie bosses and super bosses, even though they had regardless less, I guess, evil activity versus like PARAGUS, it feels weird to me that this is how Dokkan wanted to construct this. I don't know. I don't feel like this character would be like super powerful if they were. But anyway, to begin with, Broly and PARAGUS, their passive skill is the fact that they have a high chance to launch additional super attack, and then another high chance to launch super additional attack. And each super attack they do, this character reduces damage received by 26%. So if you were to get all, technically 4 super attacks in the turn, your character would have a 104% chance to have 104% damage reduction, and it means that you cannot be able to pretty much tank any attack in the game. So this character is good with luck, but most of the time you're probably hoping to raise defense as much fast as possible, and also wondering. I'm actually curious to see what teams this guy could be run on. I wonder then if he's able to be run on God Goku's team and be able to be very useful. He might be a good candidate. I would have to check to see how he is run on when it comes to later in the game. But my recommendation generally is to actually go with the 50% additional, 50% dodge, because you're trying to maximize this character's ability to really just survive, because this is a character that doesn't feel like a damage dealer. It's more of a character that's meant to just be a good floating support because of the Pure Saiyan plus Joint Forces category allies, Ki plus 3 attack defense, C50%. So if this character is on, you know, the capability to survive, I would highly recommend this character to actually be built way more defensively than it is offensively, because I don't feel like this character is going to help you win fights in comparison. He's more to help your other characters boost. Yeah. So that's all really my recommendation so far when I go overall. Let me just go overall and just say one more time. I think that for God UI Goku, for regular Sign UI Goku, 15 dodge, 6 additional. I think for these guys, mixture of how many additional attack and dodge you want. I'm personally going to go for more of additional focus versus the dodge focus, because it's more just for like dodging the super attack for them. But if you want to go mix it up and make dodge higher than additional, up to you. For your LIUI Goku, I broke down the math already, but I think that it should be highly recommended to actually go for more additional on this character, or go for a 50% additional or more additional than going full dodge, because full dodge will actually hurt you more in the long run, in this case for this character. Plus, at this point, I think you only get up to, if you're looking at the nodes, and if you're looking at what ones you can select, the highest this God Goku can go up to, this God Goku, UI Goku can go up to is around 11 additional. So I think I would recommend actually fixing that to be a bit more higher for him, that we can rock it. For SSGSS Blue, Blue, I think it's Evo Vegeta. Evo Vegeta is full additional build, fully throughout, because that crit and extra dodge might hurt you in the long run, but I recommend rather going for those dodge nodes than going for the crit nodes, because you already have massive amounts of crit for him. This guy, full dodge build, but I would probably put at least some additional and some critical, so that way you can get a lot more damage out from this guy and not have to risk having to get 7 orbs every single rotation that they are on the game. That way you can minimize how much you need to continually do so. BARDOCK and GINE, full dodge build with extra additional, so that way they can give you more support. And then, you know, Broly Paragus, 50% additional, 50% dodge. Alright. That will be all for my talk when it comes to these EZAs. I hope if you believe my way is correct and this is how you want to build them, let me know in the comments below. Tell me if you guys feel like there's other benefits to having these builds. Maybe I'm missing something when it comes to like full dodge build for UI Goku or other options. Do let me know in the comments below, and I will see you all later. Please do subscribe and like the video. Alright, peace out.